All right guys, so today we're going to talk about training rear delts. And I want to start off by saying the reason I started focusing on my rear delts is because I've had a shitty bench my entire powerlifting career. And I've also had shoulder pain. And no surprise, those two things are kind of connected. The reason I had shoulder pain, I thought I had fucked up my rotator cuff. Really, I just had never been using my rear delts properly. And it took me a long time, and actually took me stepping away from barbell movements entirely for about 6 weeks before I could kind of address the issue. But I think I can help you kind of fast track that if it's something you're struggling with yourself. So I'm going to show you a few mobility tips, and then I'm going to show you a dumbbell exercise that you can do to target your rear delts better, and hopefully you find it helpful. Now, I want to say this is directed at powerlifters. Some of it might not be relevant to people training for other things, but some of it might be. So if you enjoy this video, please let me know in the comments below, like, subscribe, whatever. But let's get into it.
Yeah.
So one of the reasons why you might have trouble using your rear delts, if you're a powerlifter, we're kind of told to always be in this super retracted position, right? Whether you're benching or squatting or squeezing your shoulder blades together, keep the upper back tight so you have a shelf for the bar. For me, that cue doesn't work. For a lot of other people I know, that cue doesn't work either. And the reason is, when you are in this overly retracted position, you're not really able to have the mobility that you need to use all the muscles properly. So the first step is addressing that. Now, it kind of gets compounded in a lot of powerlifters because they also tend to have tight traps from so much deadlifting, right? So then it's really bad because you're in this kind of like really awful position where you might feel stable, but you're really selling yourself short when it comes to using all the muscles that you want to be using in your compound lifts. So the first step is kind of undoing that. And if you're really tight, you might need some body work first. You might need to go to a massage therapist, tell them, hey, dig into my traps, dig into my rhomboids, dig into my rear delts, try to loosen up all that musculature. But if you're not that bad, one movement that I think you might find really helpful is a dip shrug. So I'm going to demonstrate how to do these, but the idea is this is not for the pec minor, this is not for the serratus, okay? You may have seen a similar movement for those muscle groups. The purpose here is to get used to moving the scapula up and down independent of the traps. All right, so I wasn't training my rear delts there, obviously. What I want you guys to focus on when you're doing this exercise, it's only a couple inches range of motion. The feeling when your shoulders are up by your ears, but your traps are relaxed, right? So that's actually at the top of the movement. When I come down, right, then everything is depressed. That's good too. But really what we're trying to do when we target the rear delts is to keep the scapula slightly elevated, but the traps are relaxed. The whole mid-back is relaxed. That's going to allow the rear delts to have more movement, right? They're gonna be able to go through a greater range of motion, so you're gonna be able to develop more muscle, and it's gonna be easier to build that mind-muscle connection. So once you've got the feeling for that, once you're able, and if you're struggling with it, try this. Just shrug way up, all the way up to your ears, and then relax your traps. Try to push the traps down, all right? I'm a little over elevated here, but it's still a better position than if I'm all bunched up, super retracted up there. Once you've got the feel of that, once you've got the hang of that position, we're gonna do a dumbbell movement. It's gonna be broken up into 3 pieces, and this is gonna help you learn to use the rear delts against the resistance. Okay, so the next movement we're gonna do is, it's sort of a dumbbell fly. I'm breaking it up into 3 stages. Each stage is gonna be progressively harder. So if you already feel like you have a good mind-muscle connection with your delts, you can go straight to the end exercise. But I think for most of you watching this video, it's probably gonna be beneficial to go through the whole 3 sections of the movement. So I'm gonna show you each one of those now, explain what it's for, why we're doing it, and then you give it a shot on your own. So you're gonna grab a pair of dumbbells, don't have to be super heavy. Want to start out in that same position where you're just maybe slightly elevated, but you have the traps relaxed. You're not bunched up all here, and you're not super pulled back either. You're in this good position. You're gonna bend over to your torsos. It doesn't have to be parallel to the floor, but pretty close. You're gonna hold the dumbbells at arm's length, slightly supinate. It doesn't have to be all the way supinated, that's pretty difficult. But if you can supinate just a little bit, and all you're gonna do is drive your hands straight back. I really want you to think about driving the elbows back and not the hands. All right, so one of the purposes of the rear delts is actually move the elbows back like this. And you're gonna do this for high reps until you start to feel something in kind of like the back. It'll be in your upper back, near your lats, above your shoulders, but not the traps. Just keep that up till you get a nice burn there. Then what you're gonna do, bend the elbows so they're, again, not quite 90 degrees, still slightly supinated. And now you're gonna try and drive your elbows back again. This time you're trying to touch them together behind your back. And that's you're gonna feel that squeeze even more in that same area. It's gonna be a lot more pronounced. It's helpful to do this in the mirror because it's very easy to see your rear delts working correctly. And then you're gonna keep your arms straight, keep that same scapular position, straighten the arms, and go out and you'll feel it even more. So we're just making this exercise progressively harder. In this first stage, only the shoulder joint is moving, so the range of motion is decreased. In the second stage, right, we have even more range of motion. In the third stage, the weight is further out, so we have less leverage, and so the muscle is working harder. And when you go through that series, from each part, it allows you to really focus on the muscle groups that you're using. Once you get that little bit of a pump, it gets easier and easier, and rear delts tend to respond very well to high reps, so it's beneficial for building muscle and strengthening that kind of muscle group.